Welcome back to this week's edition of Freedom and Prosperity Radio, the weekly radio news magazine put together here by all of us at the Virginia Institute for Public Policy. Rarely do we have a guest on where they have been the subject of whatever happened to articles, but they are contemporary in the news cycle. We're joined right now by former member of the Virginia House of Delegates and now candidate for Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears. Winsome, welcome to the program. It's an honor to meet you, and how are you doing this weekend?
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here to talk about political matters and things that will affect our lives. And apart from the brisk weather we are having, I'm doing okay.
Well, that's great. So what was it, now it was the early 2000s, you were elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. Of course, all the news articles, refer to the first black Republican woman. I don't know how many, modifiers they could put on your title, but elected to the General Assembly in the early 2000s. And now getting back in, what was it that made you want to get back into the arena for this year's lieutenant governor race?
Because I'm tired of losing. I am tired of watching our candidates lose statewide races, and there's been a canary in the mines telling us, Republicans, you are losing statewide races. You can't redistrict yourself out of it, and unfortunately, we haven't been listening. And so what we did was kind of placate ourselves or, soothe our wounds with, well, we still have the House and the Senate. Mm-hmm. And now we don't have either one, and we've lost all three statewide races, and now we're trying to figure it out. And it's too late to figure it out because the fact of the matter is President Trump lost Virginia 44.9, I believe, percent in both 16 and 2020, and our senatorial candidate, Gade, lost 43.9%, and you keep going back far enough, and we just can't seem to get over that 50% plus one hump that we need. And we have made substantial gains in the black community in terms of getting them to consider voting for the Republican Party values. And I'm looking at our current slate of candidates in the LG race, and I'm thinking we're not going to make it. We're going to do more of the same, but this time we're going to do it better. But we have hit the wall. That we can't get past it. We are at 44 to the Democrats 50-something, 47 to the Democrats 50-something. That means we've got to go get new voters. The only place to get them is to go take them away from the Democrats, and I am the only one who has a strategy to do that. And I can do it because one of the things that I am the first at was I was the first Republican to represent a majority black district since 1865. I know how to do it. It can be done, and we've got to do this because we've got adolescents, it feels like, who are running our government.
Well, Winsome, your words are like music to my ears because for years we've been hosting this program on my weekly program here in Charlottesville, and it's been since really I watched Bob McDonnell, Bill Bowling, and Ken Cuccinelli show up in every community at least once a week, each one of them, and really put the first statewide retail style race together that I had ever seen in all my years of broadcasting. They were everywhere all the time. They must have been exhausted by Election Day, but it showed in the results of the districts that they won. And now to go to a place where Republicans routinely ignore poor and underemployed black communities, Latino communities, and even white communities because their consultants tell them, oh, you're not going to win there, so don't go in there. And we get surprised when people like Lee Carter come along and they're unabashed socialists because they at least go into these poor communities and say, what have the Democrats done for you lately? Is that what we need to do more of and a better job of, is to go in and say, how's this been working out for you, and actually roll up our sleeves and make the case?
Absolutely. For example, I had a PAC, Make Black America Great Again, and the name of it was Reelect President Trump. And what we did, we went to the battleground states, and we bought time on urban contemporary radio, and we hit the black community with all kinds of issues that we know It's not even black issues.
No.
It's common sense issues. You know, we want good schools for our kids. And in the meantime, the Democrat politicians are sending their kids to out of district schools because they can pay, or they have moved to schools with good districts, and the money follows the building, not the child. And, you know, when it comes to abortion, they are opening abortion clinics more in black neighborhoods than they are in white neighborhoods. And you have to wonder, what is this about? You know, it's our black babies that are dying. And so when you bring this kind of a message to black voters who are already conservative. I mean, I had a pastor who once said, I was drugged as a child, and we looked at him in horror, and then he explained, no, I was drugged to church on Monday, drugged to church on Tuesday, you know, that sort of thing. We're always in church, you know, and twice on Sundays, by the way. So it's not a stretch for black voters to start considering. But, you know, it's like the Bible says, if you don't ask, you don't have, you know, and so you've got to go ask for the vote. You've got to make the sale. And I think President Biden is helping us very much to make the sale, and so is our king here in Virginia, Northam. So we've got to get that vote. We can do it. We only need 12% of the population to get it, and then we're in, because they are taking our money left, right, and center. It's just not working.
This weekend, the Republican Party of Virginia had their state central meeting. They got called in. They were going to wait until next weekend for their state central committee meeting to discuss whether or not to hold the convention, how to hold the convention, what to do. They needed 3/4 of the committee to vote to change. We'll get you updated on that. But Winsome, you know, when the Republican State Central Committee seems to be at odds with one another for whatever reasons, and we can get into those at another time, and then that filters down to the street level. How does a candidate elevate beyond some of that infighting?
Well, I am running my own race, and the State Central Committee is doing what they're doing. I am prepared to go either way, whether they vote primary or convention or unassembled or reassembled or prepackaged, whatever it is. We are prepared to go either way. We are taking our message to the voters, to the delegates, because we are, you know, we can't, look, this is not a Miss Universe contest where we say, well, we like this one or we like that one. We are talking about the governance of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so we have got to get our act together and make a decision. You know, in the Marine Corps, we had a saying, and I'll keep it clean, and it's either blank or get off the pot.
Yep.
And that's what we've got to do. Make a decision and move on. That's all we want. Just make a decision.
It's been pointed out to me by many friends that one of the issues Republicans have and have had for a decade or more here in Virginia, and maybe part of why we see the eroding base, is that when our candidate, we decide, we like Winsome Sears, and we're going to go to the convention and pick her, and if you don't win, too many of us stay home at the end of it, and for some reason the Democratic Party it manages somehow to heal those wounds better than Republicans do. What do we have to do to be better at not losing supporters once the decisions are made as to who the gubernatorial, lieutenant gubernatorial, and attorney general candidates are chosen?
I think sometimes we as Republicans, we are so staunch in the things that we believe that you've got to be 100% for me in everything I believe, that I'm not going to vote for you. We can't ever say, look, let's take this off the table. We're going to negotiate. This thing I can't negotiate with, we'll take that off the table. But after that, we agree on 95% of the rest. Why can't we come together and support each other and get in? We can keep fighting, but let's fight together, and then let's talk about the rest later. But instead, we try to have these purity tests, and it doesn't work, and ultimately we lose, and then we look at each other, you're the reason, you're the reason, you're the reason, and so we start the circular firing squad again. And if we could just do what the Democrats have done, we could at least take that playbook. What did we do? One of the things I'm hearing, I'll just give you a quick example. One of the things I'm hearing, the Republicans are disheartened. And, campaigns need money. And I am on the phone begging for money, or I'm begging for delegates or whatever. But the begging for money part is this time very difficult, especially because we lost. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, Hillary went into the woods, came back, drank some wine, got herself together. The college kids cried for a week, got themselves together, and so did the celebrities, and they took the House back. Why can't we ever do that? Maybe we need to drink some wine. We know all about that with communion. Drink some wine and pray, and then get ourselves together and go back on the battlefield and fight, because we will lose 100% of the battles that we walk away from.
Mm-hmm. We can see your Marine Corps background showing there. Winsome Sears is on with us. Winsome Sears, candidate for the GOP nomination for lieutenant governor, and so important legislatively in a House so closely divided as the Virginia Senate. Yours would be the deciding vote on, razor-thin issues, and we've already seen that even with a razor-thin majority in the House and Senate, the Democratic caucus is just steamrolling over things like right to work and minimum wage, job-killing programs, zero carbon by 2050, all these things. Talk about some of those issues and what they mean to the poor communities who seem to always bear the brunt of these job-killing, energy-spiking agendas.
Well, I'm also a small business owner, and I was going to be hiring someone on the inside, because we have both outside and inside jobs, the techs, and I decided I couldn't afford somebody else, so I went to automation. Mm-hmm. I could not afford to hire new staff because of these $15 an hour wage package. Now, I'm not saying that's what I pay now. What I'm saying is I have to increase what I pay commensurate with the $15 an hour. Otherwise, they can just go work at McDonald's. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is, these jobs, these low-paying jobs, were never, ever meant to be something you could subsist on. It was not meant to be a job for adults. These were for high school kids. So now they're getting the high school kids out of the job market. I don't know what they're going to do. And instead, you're going to have adults. And increasingly, it's going to go to automation. So the Democrats, who keep telling us that they love the poor people more than Republicans ever could, ultimately always end up causing them to lose jobs. Can they just love the poor just a little less, because it's not working?
Yeah, it is. You're loving me to death.
It's the same thing with the border. One of the reasons why wages increased under President Trump was because we did not have the low-paying workers coming across the border. Mm-hmm. And, if we could just get informed, we could understand how basic economics works.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, and now let's take it into the phases that we're going to see educationally. There's plenty of talk about the schools. Governor Northam at one moment will say, "I want the schools back open," and then he'll say, maybe a day a week. And then, it's almost as if the teachers' unions grab him in the back room, in the cloakroom, and say, don't you push us back into the schools yet. Talk about the need, especially in our inner cities, to get our schools back open, our community centers back up and running in the best ways possible in this COVID-19 year.
God forbid that we should have a governor with a backbone. Make a decision.
And he's a doctor. And he's a doctor on top of it. Shouldn't he be leading in this?
He ought to be able to locate the spine. What do you think? So I am a former vice president of the State Board of Education in Virginia. I have seen so many schools come before me who were failing. the kids could not even pass an 8th grade test. And in fact, we talk about the inner city. You have young black males. 50% of them are not graduating from high school. So what jobs, pray tell, can we give to these young men when you're not even graduating from high school? You become so disillusioned. Whatever it is that's happening, it's bad. And furthermore, we also found that the kids, even the rural, some poor kids from the rural areas and inner city kids, they were already a year to 2 years behind by the time they got to kindergarten. And they start catching up right around October, November. But then whatever they have, they lose in, and this is street level stuff. They lose come summertime because they don't have that constant influx of information. And so we start the cycle all over again. And it's almost like the kids never catch up. And I don't have time to be laughing and joking about this stuff because the kids don't get do-overs. So we need our schools open. We see that the private schools are open, and the COVID virus is so smart, it knows not to attack the kids in private schools. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I know.
I'm so sick of this hypocrisy.
Winsome Sears, a candidate for the lieutenant governor, and I forgot to ask, impolite, bad host etiquette. What is a website or a Facebook page for people to get involved? I still have more I want to talk to you about, but I realize nobody, they're all loving what you're saying and they can't go find you online. What is your web address?
WinsomeSears.com. You'll see all about me. You'll see my issues, and you'll see an ability to donate because, folks, continue in this race, we're going to need funds because we've got to get the message out. We can't keep doing the same things we've always done and nominating the same people because we will get what we've always got. Time for a change.
Let's talk about the educational part. In your experience with the school board really, compels me in this because one of the things I hear frequently is that kids growing up in poor communities more and more frequently just don't see the margin, if you want to call it that, to doing well in school or even finishing school because there are convenience stores and gas stations and not a whole lot else in the world to say, hey, this is what you should be achieving when you do well in school. Is it an economic issue? Do we need to revitalize some of these downtown or areas, even like Charlottesville, where poverty is out of control, but you just don't notice it because we all just get distracted by the university? Is that what we need, or is it all hands on deck through the faith community? How do we address that?
Here's what we know. We know that education lifts folks out of poverty. My father came to America with $1.75 in his pocket and a suitcase. You don't get any poorer than that. And he took any job that he could find, started his career, put himself through school, became a landlord, now comfortably retired, bought real estate, et cetera, et cetera. So I know, and everybody knows, that education is number one. You can talk about racism, whatever it is, but if you have an education, they can never take that from you. And parents who are poor want the same things for their children that rich parents do. They want their kids to have an opportunity. And so that's why what I am pushing is parental school choice. The Obamas had it. All these other folks, they have it. The Democrats, they have it. Let us say the money must follow the child so that the parents can make a decision about where they want to send their child to school. To educate a child in Virginia, I believe the average is about $15,000 to $20,000 per child. You can go to a well-run private school for about $8,000. Are you kidding? And they're doing it better than we are. And did I mention again, they're open. They are open. So we need our schools open. And we need our kids to be learning. They're all falling behind.
Last one.
This cannot be the COVID generation.
Winsome. Last one, you talk in your campaign about vote integrity. We've had segments on this program addressing H.R. 1 out of the U.S. Congress that would basically put federal law behind all of the things that went wrong in the election. I've had to explain to folks that the 300,000 votes were all absentee ballots that people were casting for 45 days and nobody was there to watch them, and we didn't even need signatures on them. Talk about what you want to do for vote integrity if you win the race for lieutenant governor.
Yes, everywhere I go, I say to folks, if the ballot box is not sacrosanct, we do not have a democracy. We must know who is coming to the polls, first of all. So there is a 2005 report by the Federal Bipartisan Commission on Election Reform that gives 87 different recommendations on how to ensure that we have free and fair elections. You know, in 2016, 65% of Democrats, according to a Morning Consult poll, said that the elections were stolen. Well, we already know that.
Mm-hmm.
So then in 2020, it was the Republicans' turn. Again, a Morning Consult political poll found 70% of Republicans said the election was stolen. So nobody's happy with the result. So my very first bill, I know how to do this. This is not my first rodeo. It's going to be on ballot box integrity. Number one, and I'm going to run through these real quickly. Number one, we must know who's coming to the polls. You need a photo ID. You can't get on a plane. You can't cash a check without it. You've got to come with it. No more smiling faces telling me who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, no more ballot harvesting. You don't come and bring in ballots. I don't know where you got them from. I don't know when you took them from me, if you changed my vote or you tossed the ballot itself. Number three, we will not have ballots mailed to addresses that were not requested. Do you know that my little Frederick County here in Winchester, the presiding circuit court judge found on January 13th, entered an order that the Virginia ballots without a postmark were delivered after Election Day. You heard me right,
mm-hmm.
after Election Day, and were counted.
Yep.
Were counted. And furthermore, the Virginia Electoral Board is charged by law before every election to clean up the voter rolls. That was not done in 2020. I don't know why it wasn't done, but it was not done. So those two things we can be assured will be happening here in Virginia. No more ballots after Election Day delivered without a postmark, and the voter rolls will be cleaned up. The dead people will be gone because, they end up voting.
Mm-hmm.
Never vote for Republicans, though, but they vote.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well,
and other things.
Well, and it's always puzzled me. And, of course, we've just had such bad weather, across Virginia. I make the analogy that if the Virginia Department of Transportation was operated like the Board of Elections, as soon as snow appeared in the forecast, the Secretary of Transportation would be on the phone to temp agencies saying, I need plow drivers. I think we need a more professional approach to our elections. Even if they're not full-time as State Board of Elections employees, we need to have people that are committed to the process and not just run around, a month before Election Day trying to hire temps to help us do this.
Here's what I noticed. It's that unless there are consequences, penalties to certain actions, things don't get done. They just say, oh, well, we're sorry. And one of the things I want to do, we've got to have an electoral board that is answerable to the people.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to have staff who are also held to that standard. So if you don't do your job, you're fired.
Yeah.
I mean, how about that? You're not fit to lead the board. You're not fit to be on the board. You don't know what you're doing. And this is one of the most, if not the most important thing that you have to do in a democracy. You've got to be able to count the votes. Oh, what Stalin said, or was it Lenin? It doesn't matter who votes. It's who counts the votes.
That's the truth.
We have got to have things changed. And by God, we've got to have a new administration here in Virginia to do it. And I want to be part of that. I can do that. I can get it done. I know how to do it. I'm not a shrinking violet.
Well, and again, give the website again for folks who want to find out more, become a delegate, and get to it, because I know what's going to happen the week before the primaries. People start calling me saying, "Where do I go to vote for the Republicans?" And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have an answer for them except to say you should have been there on May 1st when the convention was held. How can people find out more about you, Winsome?
Yes, once again, they can get to my website, winsomesears.com. They can check out everything about me, or become a delegate. You can volunteer for my campaign. Get on my email list. You can do all that, because we're going to need all hands on deck, because this is serious. Adult decisions need to be made, and I am the one to make them.
Well, and of course, cash contributions are not going to be turned away, because these things take money. Winsome, thank you so much for your visit this week, and God bless you. You're inspirational and enthusiastic, and it's infectious, and not in the bad Anthony Fauci kind of way. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Freedom and Prosperity Radio.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, folks.
Thank you all for tuning in and for what we do here at the Virginia Institute for Public Policy. Every week, it's an honor to put this together for you, for all of us here. Until next week, so long, and thanks for all the fish.